Now, Hudhoor, you have just returned from your tour from Germany, Belgium, and Holland.
Right.
Can we tell something to the audience?
See, with the grace of Allah, I have covered 3 countries during this tour of mine. Starting from Belgium, I went to Germany, and then on my way back, I stopped over at Holland, at Nunspeet, Holland. And at every place we had a very, very busy schedule, in fact. Germany is the busiest of all. But let me begin with Belgium. In Belgium, the Jamaat is, with the grace of Allah, very active. Although it's a small community, but it is rising and spreading. And the beauty of that Jamaat is that it is truly a representative of the nations of the world. The Pakistani element is not overwhelmingly large there, because there are Arabs, there are Albanians, there are Bosnians, there are all sorts of Africans, and also people from the north, Al-Maghrib, Moroccans, and so on and so forth. It's a very interesting Jamaat which is growing, but the most intriguing part of the Jamaat is from the birthplace of Alexander the Great, Macedonia. I was surprised to meet them. You know, they seem to have been born in Ahmadiyya. The way they have brought a revolution within themselves is unbelievable. You know, each one of them who met me there, in family mulaqats, we met children, the ladies and men. They impressed me so much by the quality of their faith and complete transformation. And they were so enthusiastic. Talking of Alexander the Great, no, that's not anything compared to the revolution which Ahmadiyyat is going to bring about. And we, belonging to his land, we promise you that we'll do everything in our power to bring about Islam victorious over the whole world. He was a conqueror of a small area of the world, and his conquest, although recorded in history, but didn't bring about big changes. But what we are going to do is, we're going to transform the world with the grace of Allah, with the help of Islam. I mean, through Ahmadiyyat, we are going to bring about an Islamic revolution in the world. Their determination and the way they were given up to preaching and everything is well supported by their financial sacrifices. Although they are a poor community, they are living in exile from their country and such small jobs here and there in Belgium. But right from the beginning, they all insisted that they must pay their share of chanda. See, we can't think of living without paying chanda and only living on other Ahmadis. We must participate. So they started paying 1/16 of their total income, all of them without exception, immediately. Plus, whenever I appeal for some mosque to be built here and some other missions to be bought somewhere else, some land to be bought in Russia or anywhere else, they are always on the watch for those appeals. And if somebody, misses to fail, forgets to tell them they don't like it, they complain. They say, why didn't you tell us? This is from us for that. So that was the most interesting and intriguing experience of my tour of that. Intriguing in the sense that the country of Alexander the Great is now rising with a new vision and a new resolution to have the conquest of the world, but on a different pattern, a different, area of understanding or belonging. It is a revolution which belongs to Islam they have in mind. It's an area of spiritual revolution, not a territorial revolution. And the second thing which made me use the term intriguing was the fact that they originally hail from the Punjab. These Macedonians originally hail from the Punjab. And the second advent of Islam has started from the Punjab. That is why I said intriguing. Otherwise, I should have said just interesting. Isn't it intriguing? And to prove that they belong to the same country where Masih was born, they started demonstrating to me that, we have so many common words still maintained in our language. So they said, naak, this Urdu naak, in Urdu class, aank, dant, hont, muh, and head, sar, and so on. I was surprised. Each each word, each noun of the human parts was exactly the same in the Punjabi and Urdu and in their language. So they said, now we belong to your country, originally.
That means their ancestors came from Punjab to Macedonia.
Yes, Macedonia.
MashaAllah. Are they originally Greek or Turkish or what?
No. Greek Macedonia is different.
Yes.
And this Alexander the Great was not Greek Macedonian.
Yes.
He belonged to their part of the Macedonian division. Macedonia has been divided into 4 parts. One is in Yugoslavia, the other is under Turkish control, and one is under Greek control, and one is Bulgarian control. So there are 4 parts of Macedonia now. They hail from Yugoslavian part, and they claim that that was the real Macedonia.
That means they are with the Bosnians, but they are not Bosnians.
No, they are not Bosnians.
But they came with the Bosnians, or
No, different. They have nothing to do with the Bosnian movement, etc. Bosnia is a Muslim state which is over predominantly Muslim state within Yugoslavia, and they are further south and west of Yugoslavia, more towards Turkey and Greece. So, these people, Macedonian people I'm talking about, in their placing is more to the south and west of Yugoslavia.
Albania.
No, even below Albania.
No, yes.
They are not Albanians either. See, a small territory which they occupy is further adjacent to Albania, but south of Albania and west of Albania. So there they are closer to Greece, and also one of the part of the territory extends into Bulgaria. So these are the ones that I'm talking about from Yugoslavia, who are fascinating people, and their ladies were properly dressed, they were fully covered, not like burqa, but decently covered. And their habits were, purely Islamic, truly Islamic, generous people, loving, warm-blooded. It was very interesting to meet them and to know them and to sit with them. And some of them have already gone back to their country to start preaching Ahmadiyya there, and they say, first we have to convert our own country, then we'll turn to others. And imagine the propaganda of these oil-rich states is just nothing to them. They've gone through everything. Although some Bosnians, they're influenced by that one-side story. When they say all rubbish, nonsense, this God has filled the love of Ahmadiyya in our heart. We do not care what you think, what you believe. And we know Ahmadiyya by ourselves. And whatever name you give this religion, this is our religion. That's the attitude. Very strong people, right?
This is the first time Hudhoor met them?
No, I had met them before, some of them, who had, one of them was in Germany, who left after that for his own country. He said, now I'm going back and I'm going to start converting my people. Now, I had met them here in Belgium before, but that was just a superficial meeting. Last time, superficial in the sense he was very loving and everything was fine, and he had seen me in dreams, and the dream seemed to be from Allah, because the way he described I was dressed, it was exactly the same way. So because of those personal spiritual experiences, he was a very loving and dedicated person. But this time we sat together, we came to know. It was the first time that I was told by them that they were originally from the Punjab. And all this talk I have just referred to is something as a new experience added to my tours. No, Masih is in Holland.
I'm sorry. Then
that's in Belgium.
Yes. No. Yes.
You see, it is a part of the outskirts of Brussels.
Yes.
Yes, you know.
Yes.
So just on the outskirts of Brussels is our center. It's a very lovely area, hilly and beautiful. And the houses are full, charming and artistically built. People are very nice. But it's a Flemish-speaking area of Brussels. And the local Belgian people who have become Ahmadis, although they're not many in number, but they're now getting to grow. And their quality is excellent. Out of European Ahmadis, I found them exceptionally good and staunch and deeply rooted in Ahmadiyya teaching. So you can hear them talk of Islam with all that love and quote the Quran, and they look like genuine true Muslims who have started improving their knowledge. And the two young boys, they participated in everything, in the forefront. Their father, their mother, everybody, every member of the family is a very staunch Ahmadi Muslim. And the newcomers, some new ones have come, they also I found were extremely good in quality. So although we are short in number presently, but good in quality. So inshallah, the more we spread, the more we will gain out of the Then we went to Germany, and Germany has become the most outstanding Jamaat in entire Europe. You see, that's a very important, there's a very important thing I must share with you of my past experience of my visits to Germany. 2-3 years ago, when I went to Germany, I noticed that most of the Ahmadis who had migrated from Pakistan had lost their heart and hope because they have come under very difficult circumstances, and they have to sell their property, everything, to somehow go across because the life there was becoming very miserable. So here the attitude of the German government, like all other European governments, started changing after the collapse of Berlin Wall. They had made their laws particularly soft and welcoming for the sake of East Europeans, in fact, not for the sake of Pakistanis or Indians or Bangladeshis and Ceylonese and all that. So now there was no further need for that relaxed, welcoming laws. And now the people who are benefiting from these hospitable laws are those whom they don't want to be in their country, overmuch anyway. So it's largely Turkish people and the Arabs and the Pakistanis, and so they are getting fed up, They say, so much our budget is spent, billions is spent on maintenance of these muhajirin. Some are genuine, most of them not genuine, but some are genuine like Ahmadis and some others. So that is why their policy was changing. They said, no, we must put our foot down and say, no, we'll only go on merit, person to person. So they were a bit disappointed. And I told them, I said, look here, there are two things. I don't like your disappointment. Because God is our provider. Inna lazina qalu rabbuna Allah thumma istaqamu. This is our belief. So it's a shame that you look so dispirited and downcast. I don't like it. Be like true believers and stand up and show istiqamat. And tell Allah, all right, wherever we are, you are there as well, so you will provide us. No worry. So they made a very good resolution. They responded so beautifully, like one body. There were 20,000 Ahmadis, out of which the case of more than 12,000 was still pending. And the sword of being deported was hanging over their heads. But with the grace of Allah, they responded beautifully. Said, all right, no more complaints. Whatever happens, Allah will take care. So Allah softened the heart of the German government, and they started changing some laws, making provisions for Ahmadis. That was a fascinating thing to have happened from Allah, you know. We saw it happening. Twice they changed their stiff parts of their law to benefit Ahmadis. And this to happen in Germany is very rare. Particularly in Bavaria, in the southern Germany, the attitude of the people there is very stiff concerning the aliens in Germany, the foreigners and others. Somehow they're not made up to, you know, in that way. They are pure Germans, and they don't want any others. And it was their government, provincial government, which moved this and gave the other governments to understand. Germany is divided into various regions and governments. There are 19 provinces in Germany, as to my memory, and Bavaria is one of those. So Bavaria gave this understanding to the rest, that in this case, if you move the resolution, we will not veto it. Because out of the 19 states, every state has a right to veto. And they knew even if they moved it to be useless, Bavaria would never accept this change in their regular law. And they stood firm to it. It was Allah who brought about this fascinating change. And the second thing, which was even much more interesting, was this: I told them, look here, if you really are afraid that you will be thrown out of this country, don't let the number of Ahmadi Muslims decrease here. Preach and grow so rapidly that when you are sent away, there are many more to take your place. So instead of decreasing, you grow. You know, I think in one of our meetings, I told them a very interesting joke from Ireland, but I will come to that after you have translated this.
Okay.
Thank you. See, the Armenians or Germans, of course, are Europeans, but they are different from Europeans in many ways. They may have many faults, of course, all people have, but hypocrisy is not one of those faults. As you travel north and other places, you meet politicians, you always come across some very, obnoxious experiences of meeting hypocrites who say please you with their tongue and say okay, all will be done, and they don't mean anything. But my experience with Germans is that whenever they say, they mean it. What they believe, they can say it in, openly, publicly. So the Armenian Chancellor, German Chancellor, is the only European leader who, when he visited Pakistan, in public statements criticized them for their cruelty to Ahmadiyya. And they protested and they said, look here, what? He said, no, I'm right, I know this. He had studied his case. He said, you are not treating them well. Must take objection to this inhuman behavior and must register my protest. So this is Armenia. So once they got convinced of Ahmadiyya case, things began to happen. The second thing which happened was a great boost in the preaching. So much so and so rapid. It is people think in Saudi or other places, it's only Bosnians, we help them and we win them over, exploiting their innocence and this. All absolutely false. Bosnians are now left behind by other nations which are following, joining Ahmadiyya. Within last 2 years, more than 30,000 people in Europe have become Ahmadis. Mostly Europeans, and a part is Arabs and Moroccans and Africans, Bangladeshis, but largely Europeans. So now we can say that from last 20,000 of last 2 years, now the number has risen beyond 50,000. So this is the proof of the truth of the Quran. I quoted this verse. It said, God is us, He promises you that He will be with you. Why are you afraid? So both things were resolved by Allah, fascinatingly. Inshallah we'll meet again, inshallah. And I'll tell you a few things more about that. Assalamu alaikum.